Germanium.
Oh my God.
Let's talk about that. Hey, it's me, Sean,
And me, Jonathan.
and we're back with Benson pedals, not amps.
Stuffed full of germanium.
Chock.
All the germanium you could want.
Chock full of
Whoa,
Germans.
don't let it get too hot down there. You know how germanium is. Or is it? We don't know. We'll talk about it.
We're gonna
figure it out. It's very confusing.
It is slightly confusing, but not that confusing actually. I feel like, especially Benson, they go almost over the top in information they are willing to share.
Let's just say it used to be confusing.
It used to be confusing.
And they've rectified some of the confusion.
Sometimes.
A little.
Yes.
Okay. Before we even get into that,
Yeah.
what did you think?
I think these are dope. Now, I'm easily swayed.
That's good for you old folks.
That's right. Dope is
I
a good
think about
thing.
it too. Dope is great.
Okay, back to
It's changed.
This is our class session. Dope. Word of the day. DOPE. All right. If it's dope, I know there was a time when dope was not okay. It was not good.
Depends on who you were.
That's right. Unless, well, this is true. In the music world, I guess dope has always been dope. But
Just want to smoke a little. If you've ever heard Champagne and Reefer by Muddy Water, it's great listening. All right.
dope.
That's it.
Dopers. So these are, in fact, dope. Though I'm impressed. I like them.
I enjoyed them a lot.
The preamp to me was the most exciting and surprising. Like I like the subtleties of that effect, I guess.
I liked the preamp a lot. I really enjoyed the fuzz, which I thought I would, dig. I like the preamp, and I could see how usable that would be, like on your board, and especially if you're doing the whole always on, like tone shaping. Like if that's a foundation pedal, man, that would be a really good one.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
And boosts are the same way, right? Like sometimes it's hard for me to be excited about boosts because they're boosts. That is a really good one. It's not all of them are so musical. Some of them are just kind of like, but that's pretty musical.
What I like about Germanium Boost in particular is as you push it, there is character to it. It's not, so I feel like we're in a world now where boost pedals are becoming all the same.
That's
not really,
almost gets into like compression-y.
Yes.
It's not like a compressor exactly, but it there's an effect to it that is like that. And in fact,
a little
Benson
squish to it.
they say that even on their website.
Yes, they
which
do.
is cool.
Which is very cool.
It is cool, man. I will say, even if you said it in this same thing, they say this, and I was interested to test it out. They say that even if your volume's sort of set at unity, there's a different character when you turn that on. It's a little more out of your amp, and I think that's true.
Yeah.
And that's not always true on Boost, So sometimes it's not good out of your amp. Like it pushes it, but not necessarily in a super musical way.
Well, that's straight up.
But this one does.
I'm a fan of pedals that you feel like you want to leave on. And I think that is a pedal, especially with that in mind, the unity thing, or it pushing an amp, you would want to leave on because of the character, which I really dig. Hearing you play through it and kind of run through the settings, especially starting zero up, I was like, okay.
And now when I was playing through them, by the way, playing through a Magneton Varsity in our Casino White, which is pretty awesome. Check those out on the website.
Beautiful.
I forget how good those amps are.
They're incredible.
They really are. But, Germanium has this sort of like mythical thing in the guitar pedal world. But I think I always felt like, and I think most people feel like there's this trade-off, right? Like it's temperamental. It doesn't sound the same in different volumes. So if you're outside in the summer stage, maybe you're going to sound different than
Freezing
if you're
cold.
inside or in a studio.
Well, there's the whole thing about Hendrix and putting fuzz pedals in freezers or refrigerators or ice.
Trying to keep
blocks,
them,
cooling them down.
And there's also like people talk about hearing like sort of artifacts and certain boosts and things. Benson, claims, and to this point it was just a claim because I had not tried it, that they've gotten rid of a lot of that. This thing is self-biasing, like it's self-correcting on the bias. I don't know what the right term there is. But basically, it's making it play a lot better with sort of like, other effects and buffers and those kind of things. Temperature's not that big of a deal, or not as big a deal, at least. Yeah. So they actually say the result is a germanium clean boost that can utilize a germanium transistor without the weird artifacts that were previously accepted as part of the deal. Temperature, drift, component drift, making it sound sort of different than intended. and suboptimal input impedance and headroom. So I didn't feel like that was an issue with that. I would put one of those on my board with no qualms.
Well, here's what I love. Whenever we plugged it in and we put it on, no matter how loud you turned it up, it was nice and quiet when you weren't playing.
That's
and
right.
that is something that I think is the hardest thing to find with Germanium. Yeah. I find that to be the rarest of all things is silence in between. And I just always took that as a part of it. But hearing these, it was cool to see a lot of that disappear. Like, I assume it's the quality of the build and stuff like that too. But they nailed it with that.
Well, I've got some boosts. I've had boosts in the past that they weren't necessarily boosting like the good frequencies, like the bass gets all flubby, or then you need to cut some highs, right? In fact, the boost that I have on my board now, I like it because it's got a high and a low cut, right?
Yeah.
But I think they've sort of tuned this one to dial out a lot of that stuff where it is enhancing musical sort of things. Make sure that you only use 9-volt DC power, and that's true for all of these. We'll talk about that.
None of that crazy, weird, flip it around.
It'll get you.
That's right.
You want to move on to the old preamp?
Right.
Anything else on the boost?
No, I think the cool thing that they did solve there was the Germanium stuff with the boost. Now, with the preamp, though, they tried their best to get some of that out, and I feel like the quality is there, like we said, with some of the noisiness of the pedal and stuff like that. That's not there, but this is the only one of these three that they have a warning on there. Beware, Germanium stops passing music at 120 degrees Fahrenheit, like a very hot stage.
Now, it's got to be hot.
It's got to be hot. It's got to be direct sunlight for... Now, some of you may be saying there's no way. To give you an example, I have a Nord keyboard that we had a Blues Fest down here, and it was being used on stage, right? Well, we set it up on stage that morning around 10:30, and direct sunlight out there. You know, there was no shade up until afternoon. So it was out there, and I went up there, had a Fender pinwheel pedal on top of it, too, as a rotary setting for any of the keyboardists who got on stage and wanted to use it, right? I went up there to grab the pedal to move it, and it was burn your fingers hot.
Oh, yeah, man. If you haven't played outside like that in direct sunlight, if you're not doing that, then it doesn't matter. You're fine, right? But, yeah, like I played a gig, because we've had temperatures around here close to 100.
Easily.
You know, the other day, what it feels like was supposed to be like 107. Yeah. And so then you put direct sunlight in that, and yeah, you're getting to that 120. The other day I got in my truck, it said it was 113 degrees, you know, on the little thing on the mirror. So...
and you're not even considering leaving a metal box on a stage in that sunlight for that long.
So I think the smart thing, like an idiot, like I had never played a live show the other day. I always like to put my guitars out if we're playing first because they acclimate, right? Yeah. But the angle of the sun changed, and then the sun was hitting my guitar, and like it was so hot when I got up there, and the strings, the action was actually higher, the neck had moved, so that sucks.
Well, the action will move, right? And they sweat. That's a whole guitar thing too. But now, it's like, yeah.
My guitar's great. It went right back out. You know what I mean? But it was a little challenging to play.
He gave it the old Haas bend.
I did.
He went,
I did. I just pulled it back in.
He's like, you're my neighbor.
Right over my knee. But anyways, moral of the story, maybe don't set your pedal board up in direct sunlight if you can get away with it, if you got this on there.
Cover it up with your pedal board bag.
You could do that, a towel, anything, man. Just to keep it out of the direct sunlight. And that's really only true
with that one.
With that one.
But like I said, there's still a bunch of pros to that, being that it is as quiet as the other ones. I feel like this isn't an effect that you're going to cut on and you're going to get crazy distortion out the box. No. This is something that's a little more subtle, but I enjoy that personally.
It's just going to fill it out. I mean, you kind of want to play big, like, open chords with no thirds in them. You know what I mean? Like, because it just sounds good.
Yeah.
Like,
you know, there's a lot of cool parts to this where this works, in my mind, closer to what, like, outboard gear would in a studio situation, too. They talk in here about how this is great for, like, acoustics and stuff like that as well.
I'd love to hear. I think I read in there it said that it makes acoustic pickups sound more natural. Yeah. I'd actually like to try that.
That would be
I think that
awesome.
would be super cool. I mean, you could probably get away with this and an IR loader as a direct solution.
That would be sick.
You know what I mean? Like, that could be your bass amp tone, have pedals in front of it, and push it just like you would an amp. I mean, I know there's a million options for that now, so maybe you don't want to do that. But even just in front of the amp, man. I mean, it's, you know, first sort of low gain kind of drive thing, or just to kind of sweeten and fatten out your tone. Maybe you're on, like, playing backline amps, I know that's not everybody's situation, but sometimes they sound horrible because nobody's changed the tubes in 15 years. You know what I mean? Like that would fatten that up. Right? I mean, there's just all sorts of uses you could have for that thing.
Yeah.
It did have a great sort of like blues kind of overdrive kind of tone.
Well, that's what I was going to say. If you're looking for that thing, and I'll use the word milky, like
Yeah,
milky,
it'll do that.
creamy push on an amp, that to me is
It'll
where
do
that
it.
thing lives. And that is super cool to me. I'm excited to maybe take this one home for a couple of nights and put it on my pedal
You
board
should
next to
try
some
it.
other things. And I've been getting really into dialing in tones and stacking. So
Now
I want
there
to stack
is,
that.
just to point out, this is the Germanium preamp. Obviously, there is a Benson preamp that is similar, except for the first little thing is like a FET, not Germanium. So that seems to be the main difference. Maybe there's other little ones, I don't know. But so if you want this one, this is the Germanium preamp, not the regular preamp. The regular one does not have Germanium in it.
So if you're afraid, go get the regular one. Okay.
Be boring.
Be
It's
boring.
fine.
But germanium is cool. That's kind of like the gist. That's why whenever I got in contact with Benson via one of their other companies, was like, let's do all the germanium stuff. Let's just
It's
mess
cool.
around with that and have with it, because germanium is cool, and I think it kind of gets, I think it gets slagged off for being temperamental, and it's like, oh, well, you can't use it. Well, Benson is doing their best to make sure you can, and I think that's pretty sick.
That's
And
true.
To that, I guess that takes us to the Fuzz.
The Fuzz. Now,
Das Fuzzenheimen.
couple things. This is, I think, the first fuzz pedal like this, where they got sort of automatic a temperature control that sort of, and you would think it would be cooling the germanium down. It actually is gently heating it up to the right temperature. When you plug this thing in, it needs a couple minutes, like 2-3 minutes, to get itself to the right way. They've done a thing where the LED actually changes colors.
Which is awesome, in my opinion.
So if it's orange, it's warming. If it's green, you're ready to roll. It's not like you have to stop or do anything to make that color change. It's just automatically, it keeps correcting itself internally, right? Now, and I forgot to mention on the boost, it takes, like they say, it takes like 30 seconds or something to get, to the right spot where it's actually correcting the bias. But it takes 2 or 3 minutes on the Fuzz. Also, there's a white version of this. Now, you might just think, oh, it's cosmetic. Actually, there's a big difference in temperature, like in direct sunlight, from the white one to the black one. So if you are playing outside and you're doing festivals, or you're jamming at bars or playing breweries outside in the summer, white one.
Yes.
If you're playing always inside or in a studio, doesn't matter. You get whichever one you think looks cool. They don't sound different. It is just the fact that the white one is gonna, deflect the sun, and the black one's gonna absorb all the stuff. So, blah. Yeah, it's gonna get hotter.
Well, and to build on that too, this may be knowledge that everybody watching is going to say, well, duh, Sean.
Of
But
course.
the reason why you'd want to have that light come on and off for you and let you know where it's at is for consistency in a studio situation.
For sure.
If you were looking to track with that specific sound, that's a really cool device to have at your disposal, where all right, this is going to be consistent as I hit it. It's not going to be like, oh, we got 30 minutes into the session and
It's
damn,
changed.
it's changed. The sound's gone.
I will say that I think it changed a few times while I was playing over there. I didn't notice because from what I've read, like the idea is that it keeps it as consistent as possible.
Yeah, and equalizes
Like it's keep equalizing it. So but yeah, if you were in a studio where it might really matter, you might really hear the differences recorded. Yeah. Absolutely, 1000%. Now, this is not like a gnarly fuzz. Like the Bit Crush, like spitty, like Jack White kind of thing.
Exactly.
This is like pretty, 60s, 70s, that kind of stuff. To me, it's the kind of fuzz that I kind of really dig because I'm old. Sean likes sort of all fuzzes, experimental things.
Yeah.
But that's just a really pleasant sounding pedal. It can do overdrive. It can do the fuzz thing, like the fuzz facey kind of thing. It can do like a distortion thing. You can pretty much buy that pedal. And all I did when we were doing the demos is I was doing their suggested settings. I was just going through right down the sheet of dark fuzz and bright fuzz and overdrive, and you know what I mean? And I did that for all of them. It really does cover. I've had a lot of pedals that said that before.
Yeah.
From overdrive to distortion to fuzz.
And you're like, wide open's it.
Most of them do all, when they say that, most of them do them all okay.
Yes.
Most things, they do their one thing, and those are the best pedals to me, right?
Yep.
What I was impressed by was that's super versatile.
Yeah.
I liked all the tones. I don't think I really hit a spot where I'm like, it's not quite there. So I'd use that.
Hearing you play through it, that's kind of what I felt was like, yeah, it's a perfect fuzz for you in the sense of not only how you play, but the sounds that I know you kind of chase. It matches those well, I think. It doesn't overshadow it and oversell on some glitchy standpoint, which I think a lot of fuzzes are doing now. That's become kind of the gimmick is, it does.
The IPA of guitar pedals. Let's make it more horrible and bitter and make it taste rotten.
3 octaves, you know? Yeah, exactly. Like,
how horrible can we make it?
On and
people
on
will still
on.
drink it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry if you're an IPA lover. I like some IPAs.
An IPA every once in a while is okay, but this is cool because this is Busch Light. This is Coors, baby. This is
maybe not quite that. It's a nice Pilsner. Somebody told me one time, if you like a brewer and you want to check them out, try their Pilsner because there's nowhere to hide, right? It's not just like piling hops on it. Like if they make a good Pilsner, wisdom, they're probably good brewers.
I like what I'm hearing.
A good brewery. And I'm not even saying that. I mean, that's got more character. Like that's a really, like it does actually. I've also played pedals that said that and they never really even got the fuzz, right?
Yeah.
They were just like, overdrive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That, it does them all. It does overdrive, does distortion, it does fuzz.
Yeah.
If there's a weakest thing in there, it's kind of distortion, right? Like there's no like super industrial distortion. I mean, maybe there is.
The line is very thin for the distortion. Yeah.
But awesome overdrive, like the whole spectrum, from really mild, light OD
to
medium, what I'd call higher gain OD into a little bit of distortion into really nice sort of like vintage flavored fuzz.
That's right. And once again, that creamy, milky, sound is kind of prevalent with all 3 of these in a good way.
Yeah, that and the Strat and the Magnetone were kind of magical together. I will say they've also, as far as the temperature, they've also made it where, it plays fine with buffers. You don't have to, like a lot of times with Germanium fuzzes in particular, you have to put them first. You don't need a buffer after them. You don't need their pedals or before them rather. So I think you kind of sky's the limit. So you can mess around with that. Same thing. All these are just straight up 9-volt ball style center negative power supplies. So don't cook them. Don't go putting your fancy 18 volts doubled internally to 36 volts.
Just keep going.
No, it's so much headroom. It's 8,000 volts. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean they're great. I dig it, and I'm glad that the power supplies match what most people's isolated power supplies are going to be on their boards. I dig it. I think Benson's killing it. So it was cool to actually play these, hear them, and.
Well, I've enjoyed. Baxter's got the Monarch. Some of the new amps they've got coming out look amazing. So it was cool to try the pedals and be very, very pleasantly surprised. I can't really think of another amp company that's also killing it with pedals right now, really. I'm sure there are. You're going to tell me, what about blah, blah, blah.
What about
you're probably right.
Yeah. But as far as a company that has been on our radar, I don't think. Like, I've yet to see anybody do pedals this well. And that probably goes for most companies that started doing one thing and slid into doing this. There's a few out there, like Fender's done some alright stuff, but this is really cool to see them reach into a place that I'm like, wow. And aesthetically looking at them too,
they look great.
They match the amps and how they feel. So
I'm gonna have to plug that preamp into Baxter's Benson in a little while and just see,
we're gonna have to mess around
see
with
what it looks like, what it sounds like.
Yeah, man.
The boosts.
So that's Germanium, huh?
There you go.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Click like, click subscribe. Don't forget to go check out all the videos on the road to 100,000 subscribers. Right. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next time.
There you go.